A southern Utah man facing federal charges for possession of a machine gun. 2 hikers rescued after being lost near Parowan, and a St. George family revisits their roots in Vietnam.
You're watching St. George News at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Cannon Seacrest. 21-year-old Donovan Granberry was arrested on February 6th after crashing his car following a police chase on I-15. He is now facing a federal indictment for possession of a machine gun. The pursuit began when a trooper spotted Granberry driving at speeds over 120 miles per hour. He led officers on a reckless run before crashing his car into a median. During the arrest, police reportedly found multiple guns along with marijuana. Officers also realized that Granberry was a convicted felon, which prohibits him from possessing firearms. He appeared for a bail reduction hearing on Tuesday and remains in custody. Granberry has now been indicted for possession of a machine gun and awaits his federal court appearance on Monday. 2 stranded hikers near Parowan on Wednesday were brought back to safety thanks to the Iron County Sheriff's search and rescue team. After receiving a call from the 2 lost hikers on Valentine Peak, the team took to the trails, eventually finding the hikers cold, wet, and not prepared for the weather conditions. The hikers were given dry clothes and other accessories to prepare them for the descent down the trail. The rescue team and the hikers who were once stranded made it down before the weather conditions started to take a turn for the worse. The Iron County Sheriff's Office said that this incident should serve as a reminder to bring the proper gear when exploring the outdoors, especially during this time of the year. Residents of southern Utah should brace for increased road construction as an $86 million federal grant will be going towards the development of 2 new underpasses in St. George. Here's Maury Kessler on when and where the money will be allocated.
The Utah Department of Transportation announced Thursday that it was awarded $87.6 million to build new highway underpasses in St. George at 400 East and 900 South. The funding comes through the Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods Grant Program, which awarded a total of $3.3 billion to 132 communities across the United States this year. State and local officials say the new underpasses will create better connectivity in the area and will allow segments of 400 East and 900 South on either side of I-15 to connect straight through beneath the highway. The project is anticipated to correspond with UDOT's plan to widen I-15 between exits 6 and 8, which is slated to begin sometime in 2025.
Thanks, Maury. And now I'm going to send it over to Aaron Crane for what's been happening this past week in local sports.
Thanks, Cannon. The All-Region 9 girls basketball team has been announced, and junior guard Olivia Hamlin for the Snow Canyon Warriors was announced MVP. Hamlin ended the season averaging 27.5 points per game, 5.1 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 4.8 steals, while leading the Warriors to the state championship. So congratulations to Olivia Hamlin, and if you'd like to see who made the first, second, and third teams, visit stgeorgenews.com. Also, week 1 of Region 9 play for high school baseball is over, and we had some good ball games this week. Crimson Cliff started the regular season by sweeping Hurricane. In the first game, the Mustangs came out on top 6-1 in a game that was fairly close until the Stangs scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 5th. And in the second game, the Mustangs dominated, ending the game in a run rule in the 5th inning, 11-0. Pineview also ran away with 2 wins over Cedar this week. In Game 1, going into the top of the 6th, the Panthers were leading 10-2. The Reds sparked up a rally and scored 5 runs, but it wasn't quite enough as the game ended 10-7 for Pineview. In the second game, the Panthers had control the whole time, beating the Reds 12-1 in just 6 innings. Dixie and Desert Hills also faced off this week in a 2-game series that got pretty interesting. The Flyers dominated the first game at home, shutting the Thunder out 9-0. However, the Thunder came back for revenge in Game 2, and despite Ridge Erickson's deep solo homer to left, Desert Hills scored 2 runs in the 5th and 3 in the 6th to pull off a 6-2 win over the Flyers. And Snow Canyon had a first-week region bye, but they were playing games down in Arizona, and they are currently 1-1 so far this week. Now back to you, Cannon.
Thanks, Aaron. In a recent rally at Southern Utah University, students came together to encourage the university to prioritize the environment. Here's Alicia Lundgren with more on what was said at the gathering.
On Wednesday, students gathered at Southern Utah University's campus for the Sustainability Club's Rally for Change. The club's leadership said they hope to encourage the university to take more action on environmental issues, create a sustainability office, and hire an employee to work in it. Sustainability Committee member Annie Waite said that while the university has been supportive of their work, there's more to do.
These goals of ours aren't going to happen unless students help keep the administration accountable. So when asked if they would consider signing some sort of sustainability pledge to show a concrete commitment to sustainability, the cabinet concluded that this would be too politically controversial. Sustainability is not just a fringe interest. It's not just a hippie or a leftist movement. These issues should not be confined to one political party or another.
Before concluding, the club leadership encouraged students, faculty, and staff to fill out a survey using a QR code taped to a piece of cardboard.
Thanks, Alicia. A St. George family revisits their roots for the first time in decades by taking a trip back to Vietnam. Haven Scott has more on the Staley family and some of their rediscovered memories from the land they once called home.
Mary Esther Gardner Staley Putnam had 2 children in Vietnam with husband Frank Staley, who died in a farming accident in 1986. Staley worked on the family farm in Washington Fields and was part of the Utah National Guard's 222nd Field Artillery Unit. In 1962, he got the call to help install communications in Vietnam.
My mother was all concerned that we were going to live in a thatched roof hut and that there wouldn't be any doctors. Vietnam, until 1954, was a French provincial area. It was French Indochina, and it was a really nice home we lived in.
While most of the family's time in Vietnam was peaceful, there were times to be concerned as well.
One night, a gentleman came in, and he'd been, and I don't know whether he was with the government or the military, and I remember having to clean up his arm and wash out towels because somebody had shot him in the arm while he was driving up the countryside.
Another time, after leading choir services for the local Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, she got a warning to hunker down. Instead, she drove herself to the hospital to have her second child.
I was not happy when I sent my husband over to the MAG compound to buy me a bag of flour because I was mixing some bread, and he came back and he says, "You're not going to need this flour because you're going home." And I said, "Say what?" And he said, "Yeah, we just had communication that President Johnson is sending all the dependents home."
Frank Staley and sister Annette Graff told St. George News it was pretty cool growing up and telling people where they were born. Going back to visit with family has always been on their bucket list. The family took flight one day before the anniversary of Frank Staley's death to return to Vietnam for the first time since 1964.
Thank you for watching St. George News at 5. I'm Cannon Sechrist with St. George News, your #1 source for local news.
This has been St. George News at 5.